Hi people, welcome back to the Frankie Sports channel, and just reflecting on last night's match between Novak Djokovic and Prizmic, the youngster from Croatia, 18-year-old. Incredible. And obviously Djokovic won in 4 sets after 4 hours and 1 minute, and it really did feel at one point like Prizmic was testing Djokovic to the point of asking some serious questions about whether Djokovic had it on the day to rise and ultimately elevate his level. And we know a lot about Djokovic. Whenever he is challenged, he always seems to find an extra gear and just lift to the point where his opponent is left behind. And I would say that Djokovic was able to do that, having lost the second set in the tie break, and he was down a break in that third set 3-2. I believe he won the next 4 games and then broke early in the 4th set, and despite some mishaps with a few match point misses, he was able to get over the line. And a stat popped up during that third set that said Djokovic, his percentage of break back games is 41 compared to I think 23 or 24 of the top 100 average. So that means the game after an opponent breaks Djokovic, he breaks back 41% of the time. Now that is an incredible statistic, and I think that does show when he's challenged, when he's feeling threatened, or when he senses a moment where he's got to flick a switch and engage a bit more and turn up the ante, Djokovic is able to do that just about better than anyone, hence why he has won 24 Grand Slam titles. So he is incredible, and it does appear like he's hitting the ball well, he's moving well. Despite a little illness there, apparently yesterday he was still able to find the necessary strength and presence of mind to complete the job. So it does beg the question, moving forward, can anyone deny Djokovic his 25th Grand Slam title and I think his 11th or 12th Australian Open title? And I read a stat again that he's on a 29 match winning streak in the Australian Open. So there are a lot of these statistics that are just so indicative of how good a player Djokovic is and how commanding he is at this Australian Open. So can anyone stop him, people, is the question. Now in that top half you've got Jannik Sinner. I think Jannik Sinner maybe is the one player who you would put forward as someone who can beat Djokovic. And the reason being, he beat him twice towards the latter stage of the 2023 season, once in the ATP Tour Finals round robin stage and once in the Davis Cup, I believe, semi-final. So he's got recent form of beating Djokovic, and in that Wimbledon semi-final, I watched it quite closely, where Sinner played Djokovic. I felt as if Sinner had the beating of Djokovic in some of the rallies, and he has the blend. When he strikes the ball, he's able to manoeuvre Djokovic around whilst keeping depth and not sacrificing power. So he seems to have that happy combination of variety, depth and power and consistency that just is able to sometimes enable him to create those openings against Djokovic. So I do feel as if Sinner is one player who could definitely beat Djokovic. He has a realistic shot at beating Djokovic. You've obviously got de Minaur in that side of the draw as well. Now, de Minaur beat Djokovic in the pre-Australian Open tournament in Perth, so he's got recent form against Djokovic. Yeah, it would be interesting to see though if that would translate into a Grand Slam, because Djokovic obviously raises his level when he needs to in Grand Slams. So de Minaur would certainly give as good as he's got and would challenge Djokovic in a match, but you feel as if Djokovic's extra intensity and motivation and just that relentlessness and that unyielding focus on winning Grand Slams would potentially negate a challenge from Diminor, but you never know. That is another name you could put in the mix in that top half of the draw. In the bottom half of the draw, it's looking more likely, obviously, Carlos Alcaraz, the number 2 seed, beat Djokovic in that Wimbledon final. I just feel towards the latter stage of 2023, he was maybe feeling a bit fatigued and he wasn't quite at his best in those last few weeks. So is he potentially primed enough and ready enough to win the tournament? Potentially, because obviously he's won 2 Grand Slams, so obviously he's got it in him. But it would be asking a lot for him to go all the way this time, I think. I just feel like Sinner is maybe trending and tracking a little bit more strongly these last few weeks than Alcaraz, and I think potentially Sinner would be the guy that, if anyone, could upset Djokovic. And then obviously there's Medvedev, the world number 3, in that bottom half as well with Alcaraz, so that could be a potential semi-final. In terms of someone who could spring from the pack, I mean, obviously, seeing Prizmic play yesterday, it was phenomenal. I do rate Arnaldi, the young Italian player who beat Sweeney, I believe. Was it Sweeney? Possibly. He certainly won his first round match yesterday, and he looked pretty impressive. And I noticed he was playing well in the preliminary tournaments, either in Brisbane or Adelaide. And he's a guy that I think could come on strong at a certain point. But I don't think he's ready to win or to challenge, but I certainly think he's a solid player. Then you've got Lehetska, who won Adelaide. I think he's a potential wild card here. And I think he's also in that bottom half of the draw. So Yuri Lehetska, I think, is a guy to look out for, and he could potentially cause an upset were he to play maybe Alcaraz, for example. That could be one where you might think, oh, maybe Lehetska could spring a surprise, because he does look like he's in prime form at the moment, and he hits a heavy ball. He does strike it really well. So if I'm thinking this through, people, of players that could upset Novak, you're looking at Sinner is the most likely, I think. Medvedev possibly the second most likely, given the fact that Medvedev has beaten Djokovic in a Grand Slam final as well, 2021 US Open, and he certainly competed well in that US Open final in last September, where he did lose to Djokovic. But that second set tiebreak, that second set just full stop, was a real slugfest, and Medvedev was really pushing Djokovic to the limits on certain occasions. But I think where I'd favour Sinner over Medvedev would potentially be the easy power aspect. I just feel that Sinner can generate a little bit more easy power from the back of the court, whereas I feel